Hello and welcome to the AGWS University 2020 webinar series. Today we're going to be hosted here by our Vice President of Training at AGWS, Bob Harkins. And some of the topics we're going to cover are the American Bar Association's 2020 Auto Sales and Finance Resolution. We're also going to have Bob cover the NADA's Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program, as well as protection for the dealership, customers, and finance sources. If anybody would like to revisit some of our webinars from the past, all of our webinars have been recorded and links are available on our agws.com website under the AGWS University section. So all of those are recorded and on demand for your convenience. With that, I'm going to turn this over today to Bob Harkins, again, our Vice President of Training here at AGWS.
Well, thank you very much, John Freeland. Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to F&I Insights, November 2020 edition, where our goal, as always, is to help our agent partners and our dealer clients to maximize both front-end gross and finance and insurance and lease income, fixed and variable operations, but as always, to do it the right way. And the right way, of course, is in a manner that's consistent with good customer relations and sound business practices. Today, we're going to address the hot button topic of compliance and ethics, F&I in the law, selling with integrity, and the need really, especially now, for every dealership in America, RV, marine, power sports, commercial trucking, and auto, to develop an in-house, effective, and ongoing compliance and ethics program, now commonly referred to, of course, as a CMS or compliance management system. Working with ADCO, the Association of Dealership Compliance Officers, and doing a recent webinar with them, we see that the count now for dealerships in America that's approaching the count as far as that have a compliance officer is right at or just under 40%. So we have a long way to go, but compared to just 6 months ago, it's been a real increase in the need for doing that. John, can we go back to the webinar series slide? Just a comment or two about that, if I may. And that is, this is our 11th workshop for 2020. We did 4 in 2019, so I guess that's 15 that we've done since inception. So what I would say to you is that these 15 webinars are really training classes for you and your agent partners, your dealer clients, for your team, whatever, that provides you with information on hand 24/7, 365, which I think is very important since we get the class as easily as we could in Chicago and doing the 3.5-day workshop and things of that nature. I would say to you that the ones that I've been involved on and requests for more information from our agent partners and dealer clients, and even doing webinars and Zoom meetings in stores, 3 of the most popular are, 2 of them are this year. One is the one that we did in May. That was the FTC Insights, FTC cooling off rule, vehicle sales made at home or at certain other locations, internet sales, compliance with privacy exception, adverse action notices, the do's and don'ts of electronic signatures, and the 2020 Military Lending Act rule change. So obviously, that was a hot button topic. Secondly, the one right before that, April of this year, a lot of play with this, and that was preloading products or services. The question is it legal or illegal? And Dave Robertson and I talk about that, along with we did on the FTC cooling off rule. So is it legal or illegal? And remember, the answer to that is yes, but it depends upon how you do it. So we also got into how to develop a dealership value statement, and then the AGWSU AFIP team compliance checklist and dealer aid solutions. And the other one that we've had to spend a lot of time with phone calls and working with stores and our agent partners is the one that we did in February of this year, February 2020, and that is the one that's titled Successful Menu Selling 2.0. The idea is successful menu selling begins with menu telling. We talked about menu introductions and presenting options, monologue, dialogue, and conversational selling. and making use of is, does, and means as it relates to presenting our products and services. So John, if we can go back to the slide just prior to that you started with, now the very first slide, the F&I Insights slide. Okay, today's discussion, these three things: the American Bar Association's 2020 Auto Sales and Finance Resolution. We're going to see and talk about the fact that passed just several months back, August of 2020, just this year, and the vote was not even close, which is a great thing, and that vote was 336 to 16. So there's some great news for dealers and for the finance sources that buy our paper with respect to that. Secondly, these three things tie together: the NADA Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program, and the fact that coupled with the dealer and dealership faithfully implementing the NADA Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program. Number three, if we do that, the great news is dealerships that adopt the program, again, the Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program, will have, and here's the good news, they will have a safe harbor protection against baseless ECOA, that's Equal Credit Opportunity Act, pricing discrimination claims. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So that is a great win. So really committing to the NADA, Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program, which we've talked to you with really since 2014, not only provides you with a statistically verifiable and legally defensible basis for the quoted rate, the quoted APR, and quite frankly, again, that program, if you faithfully implement that, has always done that since 2014. But the big win now is just this year, and that's number two, as we said, the safe harbor protection against ECOA pricing discrimination claims. With that, John, let's go ahead and move ahead. Okay, here we go. The ABA House of Delegates resolution on fair auto sales and financing. This information, many of you I know subscribe to and have Hudson Cook's Car Law, but like I do, I know a number of you also subscribe to Hudson Cook's Spot Delivery newsletter, their monthly newsletter. And the information that I'm sharing with you today is from the September newsletter. And the title of the article is The American Bar Association, At Last, a Good Auto Sales and Finance Resolution. So the information I'm sharing with you from the article was penned by, and you know the name, L. Gene Noonan. Gene Noonan. Gene is a co-author of 4 chapters in the current 8th edition of Car Law, the F&I Legal Desk Book. So those of you that look for Car Law for help, whatever, have seen her name and her writings with respect to the chapters that she's been involved with. And then in January of this year, January of 20, Gene was also named to the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's task force on federal consumer financial law, as it talks about ancillary products and services, discrimination and financing, whatever. So it's really great to have an ally with from Hudson Cook to be on that CFPB task force. So what Gene talks about, if you have the Hudson Cook September 2020 Spot Delivery newsletter, is the fact that the ABA House of Delegates, which meets every year, I guess it's always in August, for 3 years in a row, have been considering resolutions as it relates to dealer financing, finance reserve, and also the concern with of how add-on products, ancillary products and services are being presented. So she talks about the fact for 3 years in a row, and I think about this, this is how perhaps going in the majority of the House of Delegates think about our products and services. Here's what they've always urged. Number one, they've urged Congress and the states to require collection of the applicant's race and sex for monitoring purposes. Not making it up, it's in the book. They've urged Congress and the states to require collection of the applicant's race and sex for monitoring purposes. She talks about in the article to just imagine the costs involved of putting that together, not to mention the discussion with customers about those areas as well. Secondly, what they've moved to have done is to dictate dealer compensation from finance sources. And that dictation for dealer compensation typically is to have no finance reserve at all or a flat fee. And then number three, and think about this one, that is to require disclosure of the cost of every voluntary protection product, each one at a time, singularly, of every voluntary protection product the dealership offers. And when do you have to do that? Before a customer negotiates a vehicle purchase. So what they advocate, because they don't understand our industry and really don't understand how to comply with what they want from a goal standpoint, they wanted to add a window sticker to do just that, to provide that information to the customer. Now, what Gene Noonan says, the problem with that is all three parts of that, in addition to the extra cost involved, and that could be massive to do that, perhaps even more important than that, those three things do next to nothing. They do next to nothing to ensure that the transaction is free from illegal discrimination. So John, next slide, if you would. So what are the ABA's goals? What do they want? So she talks about that that her side of promotion of what ultimately was passed versus what the dark side wanted to do, really both have the same goals in mind, the ABA goals of the House delegates. Number one is care that illegal discrimination does not taint a consumer's auto buying and financing experience. Pretty simple. And number two, they want consumers to understand the features and cost of voluntary protection products the dealership offers, and that these products are voluntary. So they want to eliminate the illegal discrimination, doesn't taint the consumer's buying and financing experience, and the customer to have more fully an understanding of the products the dealership offers and the fact that these products are voluntary. Next, John. Okay, here you go. Some good news. The great news, the final resolution passed 336 to 16. 336 to 16. And ladies and gentlemen, it's based on the NADA Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program, which has been around since 2014, but the ABA House of Delegates had not fully grasped. But we know that the CFPB and the FTC has used this NADA program with some of their enforcement policies and programs for the past several years. So perhaps that changed their mind. So it's based upon the NADA Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program. And think about this, it now urges Congress, the states, and tribal governments to pass new laws consistent with the resolution. Folks, that's a big win. So the lobbying, as I understand it, already has begun. So after the first year, new administration, new changes, whatever, this thing ought to be gangbusters. But here's the big hit again. Number three, the big win, the big change, the big opportunity. And that is the resolution states that dealerships be offered safe harbor protection against pricing discrimination claims if they, and here's the two key words, if they faithfully implement the NADA Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program. You know, I know stores that have done parts of this program since 2014, but many of them have not been anywhere close to 100% of the program. What this is saying now is you have to faithfully implement the program. So I'm not real good with meanings and whatever, so I had to go back and look up the word faithful. And faithful means a loyal, conscientious, and reliable. So what do we have to be? We have to be loyal to the program. We have to be conscientious about it, doing with each and every customer, and reliable to the fact that we're establishing a preset standard dealer participation rate, an SDPR, if you will, that's added to the wholesale buy rate in each transaction. So again, we have statistically verifiable and legally defensible basis for the quoted rate, and now potentially safe harbor protection against baseless claims, ECOA and others, if we faithfully implement the NADA Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program. That should be enough to be a no-brainer with many of the dealers that we call on a regular basis. And by the way, from the standpoint of education creating interest, if we don't present this information to our dealers, our dealer partners, quite frankly, somebody else might. And that somebody else might be a competitor that just happens at the right time to share with them information like this that maybe they've never heard to us. Next slide, John. The bottom line, the dealership's use of the program remains voluntary. It's a choice. Secondly, dealerships that adopt the program have protection from baseless ECOA pricing discrimination claims. And number three, comfort for the dealer, the dealer, I would say, our customers, and the finance sources that buy our paper. So again, what do we have? The statistically verifiable and legally defensible basis for the rate quoted in case we're challenged. We've had that. And now number two, protection from baseless ECOA and other pricing discrimination claims. So two big wins if we accept the challenge and we faithfully implement the program. Next, John. Let's go back and review a bit and talk about the emerging challenges and continuing attacks. And I want to share with you an update from information that I recently received from Paul Mitri from NADA by attending one of his webinars, but also what's happening with respect to just this year, and also mentioned in the same spot delivery newsletter from the Federal Trade Commission. So we talked about these as the big six. This information, the big six, is from our friend Terry O'Loughlin, the Director of Compliance with Reynolds. So Terry talks about the order of the big six when it comes to financing and our programs, F&I products and services. Who should we fear or respect the most? And number one, far and away, are the finance sources that buy our paper. And why is the reason for that? The finance sources that buy our paper are directly under the umbrella of the Department of Justice and the CFPB. And remember, we talk about the fact that if we falsify on a credit application any one of the 5 key credit determinants, if we falsify any one of the 5 key credit determinants, that finance source has to report us to their regulating agency, and in most cases, that's the Department of Justice. They file what's called a SAR, which is a suspicious activity report with the Department of Justice, and that's potentially sharing with them that we are committing bank fraud. So what are these 5 key credit determinants that would get us reported? Number one, if we falsify the customer's income. Number two, if we falsify the customer's housing expense. Number three, if we falsify the customer's time on the job. Number four, if we falsify their time and address. And number five, of course, is if we falsify the customer's job type. Secondly, on the list of the big six is the Attorney General. The Attorney General, they have the association, and I love the acronym. They call themselves the NAG, N-A-A-G, the NAG, which stands for the National Association of Attorneys General. But Terry O'Loughlin also tells us that the NAG is broken up into 2 parts, 2 groups, and that would be DAGA and RAGA, and DNR stands for Democrat and Republican. So DAGA would be the Democrat Attorney General Association, R would be the Republican Attorney General Association, and we'll see if there's some changes in that number after the first of the year. So the Attorney General in your state. Next is the Federal Trade Commission. And we talk about the fact that the Federal Trade Commission is now doing some very interesting things. The Federal Trade Commission. First of all, from a Paul Mitri standpoint, the webinar that he did on September 29th of 2020 was talking about the dealer participation and add-ons and ancillary products and what was happening with the world of discrimination with respect to that, and products being overpriced and the thought that they offer little or no value, and primarily that came from the Federal Trade Commission. So the Federal Trade Commission, if you have spot delivery newsletter, again, that same edition that we mentioned, just released the report on their auto buyer study and what they call the buckle up report. And what they announced, ladies and gentlemen, are the 5 current areas of enforcement activities that the Federal Trade Commission, not the CFPB, but the FTC, who we are directly under the umbrella of, are looking at. Number 1 is add-on products and services. Number 2 is advertising. Number 3 is how we negotiate vehicle pricing and financing, the terms. Number 4, they're reviewing and signing of documents. And last but not least is spot delivery. Now they break that down and they say that the FTC flagged add-on products and services. See, they don't call them voluntary protection products. They refer to them as add-ons, little of no value, as the single greatest area of confusion and concern. the FTC says that dealers need to think very carefully about how add-ons are being promoted in your store. And this report, and you can see it in this edition of Spot Delivery, lists 6 problem areas related to the presentation of voluntary protection products that they refer to as add-ons or ancillaries. Number 1 is late, limited, or no discussion of the VPPs. I guess that means that they were packed. Number 2, confusion about if they're free or not. So the customer's misconception about that. Number 3, impressions by buyers that VPPs are mandatory, that they have to say yes to it. Number 4 are unexpected limitations of product value. And what they mention with respect to that are lifetime programs that may not be truly lifetime, depending upon the definition. Number 5 is opaque disclosure as relates to product, where many times all that was discussed was the monthly payment increase, but not the actual selling price of the voluntary protection product. And then number 6 is bundling, the bundling of voluntary protection products, whereas individual pricing is not given, or it's not stated that the customer can buy separately each product that's in that bundle. So that's a little bit about what's going on with the FTC, and it's not going to go away. So we have the FTC, we have the CFPB, Department of Justice, and also the predatory litigators in your certain local or regional area that just look at our industry as a way to enhance their opportunity with what they're doing in relation to our products and services. One of the things that Paul Mitri mentioned with respect to the Federal Trade Commission is the fact that the Federal Trade Commission has 5 commissioners that really are involved in enforcement standpoint with the things that they do and look at and what they want to enforce and or go after. And what we talk about and know is that the Federal Trade Commission, the 5 commissioners are broken down 3 and 2. And 3 of those commissioners are always from the party of the president, the current president that's in power. So right now that would be 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats. But with President Biden coming in next year, that's going to change to 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans as far as commissioners with the Federal Trade Commission. And then next, if that's not enough, perhaps, depending upon your thinking, the CFPB, and this was announced earlier this year, the president has the at will to appoint the director of the CFPB. So the president at will appoints the director of the CFPB and can also terminate the director of the CFPB. So going back in history, when the CFPB first came in, remember these names, President Obama, and the director was Richard Cordray, a former attorney general from the great state of Ohio. President Trump came in, Cordray was gone, and Trump initially appointed initial director Mick Mulvaney to oversee the CFPB. And now he, after that, appointed, and she was approved by the Senate, Kathy Kraninger as the director of the CFPB, and she is the current director, and probably I would say that's going to change after the first of the year. So a lot going on, and the one thing that Paul Mitri also said, just to touch on politics, he began his conversation by saying, if the Democrats win the trifecta, meaning the presidency, the House, and the Senate, we're going to see a lot of changes coming with respect to regulation and enforcement. So we will see what happens. Next slide, John. Industry standard and best practices to maximize deal profit. And that's maximizing deal profit as it relates to our rate administration, to our quoting of payments, and how we present our product sales, now referred to, we hope, as optional voluntary protection products. The big 3, all 3 adopted: NADA, the National Automobile Dealers Association, NAMAD, NAMAD, that's the National Association of Minority Auto Dealers, and AIADA, that's the American International Auto Dealer Association, all partnering with NADA. So all 3 of those organizations have endorsed the NADA Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program. That's been around since 2014. The NADA Model Dealership Policy for Voluntary Protection Products. That's been around since the middle of 2019. And again, both of those booklets, from a training standpoint, we have them available. You can get them yourself through NADA, whatever. Both are 18 pages in length, and both are authored totally by Paul Mitri. And Paul is the NADA Vice President of Regulatory Affairs and also Chief Counsel for financial services. Next, John. So, to take advantage of the Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program and to have our safe harbor, part of that, of course, in faithfully implementing that program is completion of the dealer participation certification form as it relates to our rates. So let's take a quick look at that. For each and every deal, we have the buyer's name, we have the date, we have the assignee, the bank or credit union that's buying the paper or finance source, the VIN number, and then we set a standard dealer participation rate. And then we list a final dealer participation rate if that differs from the standard. So going in, the store sets a standard dealer participation rate. Maybe that's 2 points above the buy rate that we charge each and every customer. The bottom line is we never go above the 2, but maybe we come down from the 2 based upon situations and circumstances. And the great news is there's 7 allowable reasons right now that have been approved by the Department of Justice that allow us to drop from that standard dealer participation rate to ensure the business with the customer. So we have the standard dealer participation rate, the final dealer participation rate. The standard was 2, the final is 1. We have to check the appropriate boxes of the 7 that apply. And normally it's 1 of the 7, but sometimes it's 2. Rarely I think you're going to find it's 3 or more. So what might cause you to drop that rate? Number 1, dealer participation limited by finance source. Number 2, the customer stated monthly payment constraint, X amount of dollars per month. I mean, we can use that literally all day long with respect to utilizing this program. Number 3, the customer stated competing offer by whatever, Last National Bank of 3.5%. Customer qualified for dealership promotional financing campaign. Customer qualified for a subvened interest rate of blank percent from whoever. Customer qualified for dealership employee incentive program. And number 7 of the 7 that are already approved by the Department of Justice, the customer purchased a vehicle that satisfies the dealership's predetermined inventory reduction criteria. And then we describe how that vehicle satisfies the criteria. So you got 2 blank spaces to add to that if you want, which you certainly could. But remember, these first 7 are already approved by the Department of Justice, so you really can't go wrong with that. Certification down in the bottom left-hand corner. I certify the information above is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. Any deviation from the standard rate was made in good faith and in a manner that is consistent with our program. Signature, date, printed name, and title. And then if you get into the 18 pages of the program, the reviewer certification on the right-hand side, we'll recommend that somebody totally out of, let's say, the F&I process, not involved with the sale or process of this particular transaction, becomes the one who certifies and reviews. And maybe that's the compliance officer or information security officer, whatever. So several boxes, a couple boxes to check. I've reviewed the above information and supporting documentation, certify that the final dealer participation rate complies with our compliance program, or 2, certify that I've initiated the corrective action noted below, meaning I've reduced the customer's interest rate to blank percent, provided a refund to the customer in the amount of X amount of dollars, taken the following employee corrective action, other, if it's applicable, describe, and then signature, date, printed name, and title within 2 days. The bottom line is this goes in the deal jacket. The customer doesn't see this, the customer doesn't sign up. And of the stores that have been doing this, the thousands that have been on this program since 2014, what we know is the majority of the finance sources want a copy of this form as well. And obviously, why wouldn't they? It's protection for them as well. Next slide, John. Now we get into the NADA model dealership policy for voluntary protection products that is also discussed in this program that Gene Noonan wrote about with respect to product disclosure. And the recommendation, again, from NADA is that when it comes to presenting products, one of the things that we do is that the dealership prominently displays this poster. So how does this read? Name of dealership. So I'm the dealer and it's Harkins Honda. Harkins Honda offers vehicle service contracts and other voluntary products. that are designed to protect your investment in a vehicle you purchase or lease from us. The purchase of any of these voluntary protection products is completely optional and is not required. The purchase or lease a vehicle or obtain warranty coverage, financing on particular terms, or any other product or service offered by the dealership. Name of dealership, Harkins Honda, is fully committed to providing you, now catch this, fully committed to providing you the what? The price, the terms, and conditions of each voluntary protection product. And what's the next word? Before you decide to purchase it. So we're providing the price, the terms, and conditions of each voluntary protection product before you decide to purchase it. Ladies and gentlemen, I would submit to you that you can't do that. You can't do that as is described by the NADA Model Leadership Policy and Program if all we do and if all we're doing is we're just showing a customer and selling off of a brochure or laminate, because a brochure or laminate is incomplete. The brochure probably says things in the back in fine print that the coverages, the exclusions, etc., are an outline only of the product and should not be relied upon when considering purchase of this particular product. So what are we saying? Something that we've been teaching for some time, and many of you have been doing it for some time, and others have just not thought about it. And that is, you give the customer the actual product contract itself. We talk about transparency. Give the customer the actual product contract themselves. You hand it to them, which is a requirement of truth in lending anyhow, and give them the appropriate pages to look at. They'll find the coverages, exclusions, maintenance responsibilities, and whatever limitations, limits of liability on pages 2, 3, 4, and 5. Be happy to answer, address any questions or concerns you might have. Well, how can you be any more transparent than that? So that poster is directly from NADA's Model Leadership Policy for voluntary protection products. Next, if we adopt that program, Voluntary Protection Product Certification Program, we have the buyer's name, we have the date, the VIN number, we have the name of the individual voluntary protection product or bundle. And by the way, this program really promotes bundles big time. So for those of you that love the bundles and think that NADA is anti-bundle, whatever, that's not true. Get into the booklet itself and look at pages 15, 16, 17, and 18, which gets into the bundles, and you'll see how competitive that is, and also how transparent it is as well. Now, the big change perhaps is the recommendation to use this program. The second program is that you set a standard retail price for every product. So you set a standard retail price for every product. Then you have a selling price. And this gets down to the bottom left-hand side where we have allowable discounts. These are allowable discounts that are listed by NADA. It's not from the Department of Justice or any federal source. But as NADA sees this and recommends it, again, this is done by Paul Mitri, the 5 allowable discounts that come off the standard retail price are: number 1, the VPP is limited by pricing or payment cap. Number 2, the customer stated a monthly payment constraint. Sound familiar to the other program? Number 3, customer stated a competing offer of another product from a competitor. Customer qualified. Number 4, for dealership promotional VPP campaign. And last but not least, the customer qualified for dealership employee incentive program. So those are the 5 allowable discounts. So back to the middle part of the form itself, the 4th box over. If selling price is less than the retail price, enter the number of the allowable discount from the list below. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. The last 2 boxes, if discount 2 is selected, enter the amount of the monthly payment constraint. Pretty easy to do. If discount 3 is selected, enter the name of the competing offeror and the price of the competing offer. So the bottom left-hand corner again is the certification of the individual who talked with the customer, and within 2 days, the reviewer certification, somebody else certifying the selling price complies with our policy, or certifying that I've initiated the corrective action noted below. That could be reduced the customer selling price for what, or provided a refund to the customer in the amount of X amount of dollars, and then taken the following employee corrective action or other. And again, that recommendation is to do that within 2 days of the completion of the deal. John, next slide. So how do we verbalize this and get into this with some real world information and talking with the customers as it relates to menu telling and menu selling? And again, the NADA program, Voluntary Protection Product for voluntary protection products certainly endorses the use of a menu and has, as part of that, 8 guidelines that talk about what they see are 8 of the most important things that we have to do. Touching on that, I would say too that we believe, American Guardian Group of Companies, and I believe personally, that the single most important piece of paper, or digital document in a deal file is a properly executed menu. Why, you ask? The answer very simply is this: if done correctly, that's the big if done correctly, this confirms the dealership was transparent during the sale of F&I products and services. So earlier on in the presentation, as we talked about in training, we hopefully have verbalized to the customer our dealership value statement, our dealership DNA, and what separates us from the other stores in our market area. And in class and in store, we talk about the fact of the DVS, the fact that the dealership value statement as an organization, we're committed to 5 things. And those 5 things are how we conduct business, and they're spelled R-H-I-T-T, remember that, the right way. R stands for respect, H stands for honesty, I stands for integrity, the first T stands for transparency, and the second T stands for trust. So if you really believe that, and are promoting transparency, then I think that second part of the most important piece of paper, digital document, is key. It confirms the dealership was transparent during the sale of F&I products and services. And then I personally believe that in menu selling, is really one process, but it involves 2 pages. It's one process, but it involves 2 pages. And one page is the presentation page, and the second page is the selected decline page. That's the one that the customer signs, the one that goes in the deal jacket, the one that's the customer is given the copy of, and the one that's given to the finance source that buys the paper. So a properly executed menu does what? Potentially these 4 things. Number 1, it affirms the agreement in sales from a base payment standpoint as the payment is initialed by the customer. It affirms the agreement in sales from a base payment standpoint as the payment is initialed by the customer. So you say, Mr. Customer, once again, as previously discussed, these are the terms and conditions. These are the terms and conditions under which you can take delivery of your vehicle today with your approved credit. Your amount financed, your base amount financed, let's say it's $28,000. Your monthly payment, your base vehicle only payment is $450.94. That's for a term of 72 months, which is 6 years, and your annual percentage rate is 5%. So if you would, folks, just to affirm that, would you please initial right by the $450.94? That's all there is to it. It affirms the agreement in sales from a base payment standpoint as the payment is initialed by the customer. Secondly, it discloses that the products offered and selected are optional. Number 3, discloses the base and final payment on the selected declined page. And finally, discloses the prices of the selected products and the terms agree with the retail installment sale contract or the consumer lease agreement. So customer signs that selected decline page, copy to the customer, copy in the deal jacket, copy, of course, to the finance source that's buying the paper or that is acquiring the lease. Next slide, John. We talk about, and I believe that successful menu selling begins with menu telling. You know, it's a process that's based on telling and helping instead of initially selling. The bottom line is to think about, like many stores are doing now, the bottom line is to maybe change our thinking. And the change of thinking is, how about trying to educate the customer first and then selling second? If you commit yourself to that, you might see a very favorable change in your results. Let's try educating the customer first and then selling second. So it's a process based on telling and helping instead of initially selling. Voluntary protection products, the thought process, let's share with the customer what the product is, what the product does, what that means to the customer, then ultimately the cost and the trial close or close as well. So, you know, this is different from, quite frankly, the way I taught it 100 years ago with the 5 steps to the sale of introduction, rapport, qualify, presentation, and close. Some stores still use those 5 steps to the sale. For years in the 90s and 2000s, a lot of stores still use this program. Is you take every product individually and you divide your presentation up into 4 steps. Qualify, need awareness, need satisfaction, trial, close. We referred to that with the organization that I was with for 13 years as guided discovery. I got to tell you, it worked very, very well. Qualify, need awareness, need satisfaction, and trial close. What it was, however, and what it became was a ton of questions, a ton of interrogations, or a ton of illustrations. And for many, many customers, the bad news is it became an interrogation and led to combative conversation, not to mention the fact that it took a long time to do. So that guided discovery, qualify, need awareness, need satisfaction, trial close replaced the monologue. So it was certainly dialogue, but the negative side was it became an interrogation and led to combative conversation. So if you follow the is, doesn't, means, what that means is that the fundamental premise is that F&I is about helping customers make an informed decision about the optional voluntary protection products that are available to them in connection with their purchase. So example, depending upon which one you would start with product-wise, say, Mr. Customer, this is your vehicle service agreement. That's what it is. What this does for you is that it gives you a hedge against inflation on the cost of computers, components, parts, and labor, as it provides you with extended coverage for major and minor repairs and replacements at a reasonable cost. That's what it does. What that means to you folks, you'll be happy to know you won't have to budget your cash for costly repair bills later. You know, think about it, what can be better than that? At that point in time, depending upon what they say, I'm going to go on to the next option. Folks, the next option perhaps is our guaranteed asset protection or gap addendum contract. What this does for you is that it protects your budget, your credit, your savings, and your total investment against financial loss. Folks will be happy to know what that means is if your vehicle gets stolen and not recovered or totaled in an accident, you may not have to pay. You can't always say that it's 100%, but you may not have to pay the difference between what your insurance check is and what you owe the bank or your particular lender. If that doesn't bring us a response, I go to my third option. Folks, the third option is our tire and wheel road hazard. What this does for you is that it gives you repair replacement coverage for tires and rims, including mounting, balancing, and taxes. Folks, what that means is, when you think about it, the next time your tire and rim comes in contact with some pretty bad things, nails, glass, metal, potholes, rocks, tree limbs, debris in the road that causes blowouts, you'd be happy to know that if that happens with our product, we provide you with the protection, response, and services necessary in time of need. Do you see how quick that is and how those kind of examples just with 3 products will get the customer involved and not following the steps of qualify, need awareness, need satisfaction, and trial close, and doing a long step sell presentation. Now, the recommendation is if you do that, if you couple the is, does, and means approach with generic product videos, and boy, I think that's the key. Generic product videos. It's not product specific to you. It's a generic product video. There may be 1.5 minutes in length, and you have a credible third party talking about these various programs. What can be better? What can be better than that? John, next slide. Menu telling and menu selling. We recommend 5 key ideas. Number 1, introduce the menu properly. What does that mean? Low key, downstream, non-confrontational. Number 2, let's eliminate 5 negative trigger words. Well, these are great words maybe for objection handling or further longer presentation, but we found that they may not be the best words for a menu introduction. So what are the 5 words to eliminate for the introduction? They are services, coverages, features, benefits, and programs. Great words, but recommended not for the introduction. So what do we use if we don't use those 5 words? Next, we want to use the key phrase OVPP, optional voluntary protection products. I've had more than one people over the years say, well, Bob, isn't that redundant when you say optional and voluntary? Isn't that the same thing? Not really. Optional means a customer has a choice, a choosing, so that they choose, have the choice of what they want. Voluntary means it's based upon the customer's free will. It's brought about by one's own free choice. So optional and voluntary have 2 separate, distinct meanings. So it's our optional voluntary protection products. Next, stop selling and start offering options. I call that in class SS and SO. Commit yourself to SS and SO. Stop selling and start off. That would be options. And offering an opportunity to customize by using maybe a single column menu then a custom column that's blank going in next to that. Bottom line, and whatever we do, we always commit to the 3 C's: compliance, completeness, and consistency. John, next slide, sir. So, a menu selling that we find works very, very well. It's just 20 words. Mr. Customer, here's a menu breakdown of your optional voluntary protection products that are available to protect your credit and your investment. That's all you need. Mr. Customer, here's a menu breakdown of your optional voluntary protection products that are available to protect your credit and your investment. So what would you say about that? Number one, it's low key, it's downstream, it's non-confrontational. It certainly eliminates the 5 negative trigger words, and it uses the key phrase of optional voluntary protection products. So we come out of that customer initialing the base payment, the base vehicle only payment. Then we get into the menu introduction. So again, to repeat, Mr. Customer, once again, these are the terms and conditions under which you can take delivery of your vehicle today, as you know, with your approved credit. The base amount financed is $28,000. Your payment, base vehicle only payment, is $450.94. That's for 72 months, and the APR we discussed at 5%. Need your initial right here by the $450 just to certify and confirm that you understand that payment. Mr. Customer, with that in mind, here we go with the menu introduction. With that in mind, here's a menu breakdown of your optional voluntary protection products that are available to protect your credit and your investment. Be happy to know here at Harkins Honda, our unique financial package is comprised of 5 options. The great news is you can choose all of these options. Quite frankly, Mr. Customer, you can choose none of them because nothing is required or is a condition of financing. Or folks, if you like many of our clients here at Harkins Honda, what you can do is this column indicates here, truly mix and match these coverages and then truly customize a plan that fits your driving habits and ownership experiences perfectly. With that in mind, Mr. Customer, our first option is your vehicle service contract, and now I'm off and running with what it is, what it does, and what it means. So John, next slide if you would. Bottom line, we've recommended this before, and it's never going to go away because it works. We encourage you to develop. As a business, an agency, a dealership, as a finance company, whatever, to encourage you to develop your mission statement and your value statements. Develop and commit to a mission and value statements. The mission statement that we share with our agent partners, to share with our dealer clients, very simply, as it relates to products and sales, is simply this: every customer knows what they're getting. They agree to buy it, they know why they need it, and they feel good about it when they leave the dealership. If they feel that way, what problems are you going to have? Seldom, if ever, any. So when you think about that, every customer knows what they're getting, they agree to buy it, they know why they need it, and they feel good about it when they leave the dealership, when they leave the store. Every time I read that, I think about a lot of Zig Ziglarisms. Zig always used to talk about one of his many things. The most important question in sales or selling is, what do our customers see in us? And C is obviously spelled S-E-E, but he made that the acronym for 5 key areas of what the customer should see in us. S stands for sincerity, the first E stands for enthusiasm, and the second E stands for empathy. So we won't define that. You can see where I'm going with that. If the customer, as a result of our mission statement, sees and understands and believes the sincerity, enthusiasm, and empathy, think of how that will be as far as success with our unique financial package and also our CSI reports as well. And then secondly, the 3 questions that are on the mind of every customer. Can I trust you? Are you credible, and do you care? And I always throw in, I think there's really a 4th question as well that the customer's thinking about. Again, these are questions that they never ask you, but they'll bring up or think about it themselves. Is this guy, is this lady, whatever, are they really trying to help me, or are they just trying to sell you something? And if they're trying to sell you something, then we're back to square one again. So mission statement, every customer knows what they're getting. They agree to buy it, they know why they need it, and they feel good about it when they leave the store. Value statement, we encourage you to develop that for your organization. Our value statement at the American Guardian Group of Companies, we endorse and teach the industry standard and best practices that are recommended by NADA, by AFIP, and our internal American Guardian Group of Companies Seller Code of Conduct for Retail Sales, which serves as a guide to the proper sales practices for all retail sellers of AGWS products and services. And currently, we have 11 bullet points that do that. So with that, John, back to you for maybe a final comment on the flyer and into our lone webinar that's left for the year, and the fact that next year, next month, we'll be giving the dates for 2021 as well. And I think that will continue to be the second Wednesday of every month at 1 p.m. Central, because we've heard no bad reports with respect to that. Mr. Friedland, John, sir?
Yeah, Bob, we did have one question come in while you were speaking. I didn't want to interrupt, but the question was, did the FTC address base payment disclosures as a specific concern?
Not in what I read in this report. However, the NADA, Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program, certainly mentions that. So they did not use the term base payment, but again, they were just getting the highlights or the lowlights of responses from customers on customer interviews.
Okay, all right, thanks, Bob.
Sure.
Again, John Friedland, AVP of Business Development here, and we are wrapping up this year with our webinars. Again, it's always on the second Wednesday of the month at 1 o'clock Central Time. We're going to continue that moving forward. The historical recordings, though, as Bob had said, and I'd said earlier, are available via our website. So there's a schedule of them in front of you right now. Please feel free to check out our website, or you can always shoot Bob or I an email as well. We can help direct you to anyone that you might have more interest in. If you do have time and you want to check us out, well, actually, the next one is December 9th there, coming up. But if you do want to check us out on LinkedIn, go ahead and follow us as well. We encourage you to do that. We do put out information there regularly. It's also available to be, again, followed by you, and then you will get the updates from AGWS. I do apparently have one more question that just came in, Bob, here. Oh, no, yes, sir. I think we addressed. No, we're good. Never mind. That was a false alarm. Well, thank you very much, Bob Harkins. Appreciate all the knowledge you always pass along to us. Thank you. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to email either myself or Bob Harkins, and we can get those answered for you.
John Friedland, thank you again very much. Thank